Now, heading on to the next part of this talk show. For all of people present here who want to continue with management studies later, how was how was your transition from here to management studies? What did management studies teach you, and how did you know what stuff to learn in management? Because it's MBA is like a vast ocean, right? There's so much to learn.
So let me put it this way. Um, it depends on what you look forward in your life. Maybe I could say that if you really are passionate to be into the technical stream, engineering stream, uh, you don't require to do a management course, and you can do really wonders by going into research or even uh, PhD level fundamentals and develop the technical part of it, which has its great charm and contribution. The second way I look at is management is actually universal, and I will tell you what I mean by that. If you just if you just examine your life, management is part of your every day to day. Now, for example, many of you are part of the student council, right? You are managing events, you are managing your council, you are managing people. So, in my view, management is in terms of its principles is universal, and that is essential for everybody. And I can share with you what I learned from my mentor, my guru. He said that the most important aspect of management is man management. This is what I learned in my first year of management studies from my mentor, who is Bhagwan Satya Sai Baba. And at that point, it was more of a theoretical learning. But as I went through in my management course and subsequently in work life, I can tell you it's 100% true. If you can manage, or rather, if you can learn this one skill of how to do man management, and I will maybe describe it a bit little later, you can excel in whichever area you are, whether you go into a full stream technical, or you're going to a corporate life, or I will urge all the students to also look at entrepreneurship and innovation, and that's why I was keen to know about the TBI that you have here. My sense is India, Bharat is in a phase, we are in a very, very exceptionally good transformative phase. And you guys are lucky being the youngsters. You are the change makers. You are the people who are going to be the future makers of this country. You must be familiar with this term demographic dividend, right? India is in a position where the age group of that 21 to 28, we are the maximum. You know what percentage of the population we are in this age group?
You mean we are?
Yeah, you are all guys.
Yes.
Is almost 60%, which is exceptionally higher, and that is going to be the biggest strength of this country.
Absolutely.
And why I'm linking that to innovation is, historically, at least for last 70 years, that this particular aspect has not been that much encouraged, but it is coming into limelight in last about 10 years or so. And I think that's going to be a big potential for this country for various things. One, I think through the earlier generations, I think most of you, I mean, as I look at it, we have come to a space where our parents have brought to a phase where we are much better settled in life. What I mean to say is, when I joined, when I look back, by the way, my father is also engineer. He is a VCTite in very early batches. And if I correlate to how he did his engineering, so he's from a joint family and from a very modest family. And I know how he has sort of come up in a very challenging situation. He was in a small house and he didn't have enough space to study. a study table. So he has sat under a street light and studied.
Yes.
And excelled. He has achieved scholarship. He has funded his own education because his father couldn't. My grandfather said that I have to fund the education of my other children. So if you want to do your further studies, you have to fend for yourself. So he earned, and or either through scholarships or doing some jobs to do his education. I was much better.
Yeah.
So my studies, I didn't have to much plan about the fees. I was very happy that I got into a government institution because that made my father a little more comfortable. But I had never thought about how to pay for the fees.
Yeah.
And I think the next generation that you are, many of you, if not all, would be in a situation where you are in a position, thanks to your earlier generation, where you could think about taking some risks.
Yeah.
For something that excites you.
Yeah,
Maybe I couldn't take that when I was passing out from my engineering, because I had to go into a earning mode and support my family. But maybe, I guess, the current generation of viewers, if not all, many of you might have that sort of a risk-taking appetite to go into something which you passionately look for. And that's why you will see many of younger generations going into becoming entrepreneurs, innovators, and even in social, I will say social corporate phase, which was not much prominent earlier. So, coming back to your question, management is important in every sphere, but I look at it, there are three things which open up when you come out of engineering. One is pure technical, which is amazing. It will have great potential. You will technically develop in terms of research and fundamentals of engineering and go deeper into that mode. That is one. Two, yes, you go into a pure management role either through engineer or do a management course and move ahead. And third, which I'm deeply passionate about, because one of my roles which I did few years back in Tata's was supporting innovators.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about it a little later.
Yes,
Or
definitely.
separately when we talk about incubation here.
Yes.
And that was amazing. I mean, I will share about it sometime later. I feel India is at a phase where it has a lot of scope for potential for innovation.
Absolutely.
So if you are passionate about it and you have that appetite to jump into it, my request will be, please consider.
Yes.
It has great potential. So I will look at this way. So answering your question, yes, management degree will give you a lot of expertise to how to use those skills to go ahead, but not necessary to go to a formal management. Not necessary. You can do it even otherwise as you go through.
Okay. Moving on to the latter half, which I think everyone has been waiting for. Tell us a little bit about your role at Tata Trust.
Okay. So maybe I'll just quickly cover both the institutions I have worked for. So I worked in Satyasai institution for 17 years in the healthcare field. And then after I moved back to Mumbai in 2017, I joined Tata Trust. And I'm so happy to be associated with these two esteemed charitable institutions of the country. So, as I said, in the Satyasai setup, I have worked in multiple departments. I started with internal audit, procurement, HR, finance, more focused on the healthcare. So that was for 17 years. Hospital administration. And in the Tata Trust, I joined the supply chain function in 2017, which currently I head. And Tata Trust, most of you might have heard about it.
I think everyone has heard about
Everywhere, very good. I mean, it's a maybe I can share a little bit about that, the beautiful concept which I came to know after I joined. I don't know how many of you will be aware. So Tata Trust owns 66% of shares of Tata Sons.
Yeah.
And Tata Sons is the holding company of Tata Group. Just to quickly tell you what it means is, Tata Trust own 2/3 of the business of Tata Group. And the way the model is made in such a way, what it means is that if any group company generates profit and declares dividend, that is sharing of the profit. So assume a company, Tata company declares 100 rupees dividend, which is sharing of the profit to the shareholder. Tata Trust being 2/3 holder of shares, so 66 rupees by default, by structure, comes to the trust for spending on philanthropy. I mean, I can't think of a better innovative model for philanthropy. And I have not seen anywhere in world. I think probably Tatas are the only ones who can think of such thing, because I think it's in the genes. By the way, are you aware how long Tata Trusts are in operation?
No.
Much before independence. 1918 was the first trust. It's amazing. I think that is in the DNA of the group, if I can say. So we are into multiple things through trust. So at any point of time, the trust has at least 200 to 300 projects, small and big, happening. And specifically to my role, I look into the procurement, because we as a philanthropy, we not only give grants, that is donations to other institutions, those are also grants in kind. That means we purchase goods, we procure goods, or we build structures or buildings, schools, hospitals, and donate. So the entire procurement of those things comes under my department. And typically trust does a philanthropy, the quantum is quite significant. We are the biggest in India. 1,200 crores in a year, which is probably, without,
It's a lot.
I think it's not to compare, but yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's a lot of numbers for a
yeah,
student.
because that is the intent of the group. And if you, I will urge you to go to the Tata Trust website and see, right from the time of Jamsetji, what was his vision for India and how the trust emerged as it went on. He was I call him a corporate avatar, to say, to keep a vision for how companies should come up in India.
Absolutely.
And think of that concept when we were still under a foreign rule. It was amazing how he has thought about. I will request you to study that if you have not. Then, of course, the charitable trust came in, and we work in multiple areas: education, health, poverty alleviation, hygiene, so many things, gender equality. And I lead the procurement function, and that's significant portion of the total amount of grants that we give, and it gives me a great sense of satisfaction, because working for such a noble philanthropy, and you can contribute by making the process of that money that is spent, ensuring that it's spent for the right cause. That is one. Second, ensuring it is used efficiently, making the best value of money. And I consider myself lucky to be in the charitable space, because I tell people I work in the charity and get paid for it. And it's an amazing sector. If you are interested, you should get some exposure. It may not be so exciting for some, like in a corporate. It can be exciting, like for somebody like me. Maybe you should get that flavor and see how it resonates with you.
So I mentioned on call that the concept of happiness that students have is very different of what someone with your experience might have. For example, students will always relate money to happiness, or maybe some materialistic thing to happiness. How do you measure the amount of satisfaction that you get from such a noble mission?
Good question. I mean, amazing. I mean, I get this in almost all the sessions where I interact with youngsters, and it's natural. I mean, even if I put back myself into that, in your shoes, I think I had the same question. Thankfully, I had a mentor who guided me on this, and I will share what I'm going to share from my own experience, not just from what I heard. and what I listened. I would define happiness. How do I say? Happiness is not dependent on something that you have, but it is dependent on how you look at what you have. That is something I learned. Maybe my role in philanthropy gave me that sort of exposure to look at what different sections of society go through, and I can tell you that fills you with a sense of gratitude for what you have.
Absolutely.
So, so happiness is subjective, and you must be, because say every human being, each one of us strives for happiness. If you get that experience, and which I'm sure many of you would have, um, when you do something for somebody else apart from yourself, you should experience that happiness, and it will fill you with something which with something that you can individually enjoy. It will be different from there, and my request will be to have that experience. If you don't have, it will fill you with some sense of happiness and gratitude. You must experience it.
Absolutely.
It is much bigger than what you enjoy doing yourself for yourself. When you do it for somebody else, that's something that you must experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've come across this article online I mentioned earlier. Back in times of COVID, when things were really difficult, you've been on a very noble mission for procurement. So how has that been?
Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks for bringing back those memories. So, COVID, all of us have gone through, and yes, I mean, the one part, of course, was the the tragic part of it, what it brought. But another way of looking at, if you look at how, what are the learnings that we got from there, no? So, in terms of typically the way trust works is we always look for ways we can contribute to community, and that's how the founders of Tata Trust have always looked at and have defined as the philosophy of Tata Trust. So naturally, when the COVID pandemic struck, which was a big jolt, a big impact for the entire world, right, and even for the country, the Tata Trust came a big way to work on it. So I was part of the procurement function, and so we got quickly into that to see how we can bring in something which the country was lacking at that point of time. And you would have heard about this particular item called PPE,
Yes.
right? Personal protection kit, which is popular in the medical industry, in a healthcare, I was aware of, but was not generally so popular, but it came up in COVID. And there was a gross shortage at that point of time because the demand just soared and there was no production facility. So one of the things which Trust took up as a mantle was, how do we bring these PPEs in sufficient numbers and equip our hospitals which were tackling COVID. The simple reason is that the the patients needed care, and if they are to be cared, the caregivers have to be first safeguarded. Because just imagine, I salute the medical professionals, the doctors and the nurses, and I know many of them who have sacrificed their life for community in those times. So the trust looked at, how do we safeguard, because unless they are safeguarded, how will they take care of patients? So PPEs was really a need. So we jumped into to source PPEs. Unfortunately, at that point of time, we didn't have enough facility in India to produce, and time was critical. So we imported it. We were forced to import it, but we did sheerly with such a such a pace. I still remember in March we started uh, first looking for the sources. Our first consignment landed in May within about 45 days time. Imports during COVID times when even shipments were difficult to get.
So can you include numbers so that they get
Yeah, okay. So we imported PPs. Can you imagine 14 air shipments, airlifts, complete planes we imported 14. And it was a collaborative work. It was not just Tata Trust. And I'd like to share how this thing works. So the moment Tata Trust decided that we want to work on it, the whole corporate group of Tatas came in. So one thing was, where do you find it? So that's where our team came in, and we found, unfortunately at that point, the only country that was producing was China. But again, we had a connect, a reliable connect there, with whom they were people we had worked with, because they had a connect there to ensure that we get reliable, dependable suppliers. So they would do the inspections there to ensure whatever comes in is a certified product. One, to source in those quantities, it wouldn't have been possible unless we had a local connect there.
huge quantities.
Local quantities, yeah. So the total quantity of PPs that we imported were to the tune of, the value was 140 crores. 140 crores.
Huge amount of.
And roughly about 2.5 lakhs PPs that we imported. So now how do you bring them in, right, country?
Yeah.
So that time Air India came to us. Air India that time was not a Tata entity. It's now, but not at that time. But it had that emotional bond because Tatas were connected, as you might aware, right, from the beginning of Air India. So Air India said, we will support you to the extent possible with shipments. We will arrange the planes. And we really had great support from them. That's one. Then Tata Trent, who is fully into supply chain, they said, we will give you supply chain expertise of how to distribute. So their supply chain team came on board to manage the logistics. Then we decided the need was from all over India. So how do you manage getting the items and then sending them? So whether we do it decentralized or centralized, we realize centralized is a good model to do. Then we identified the hub could be Mumbai or Pune. Mumbai, we didn't get the space. Just imagine, just see how it happens. We were discussing this, and suddenly Voltas comes up to us and says, we recently vacated one of our factories near Pune, and we moved our business somewhere else, our manufacturing. So the shed is vacant. You can use. So the shed was available to us as a store, so as a warehouse, which we used, which we had CCTVs installed to ensure monitoring of the entire work, which used to be monitored from Mumbai. We had a team of about 12 people working day and night to ensure all the shipments arrive and they are dispatched to respective locations. We catered to 250 odd locations throughout India. Right from Ladakh to Assam, Manipur. I think western side we went to Rajasthan extremes, and South Kerala, all four corners. 250 odd locations. We identify a sourcing partner who helped us to manage the entire supply chain, monitored by Trent's expertise. So we had Voltas who gave us shed. We had Trent who helped us with supply chain. We had Tata International who helped us with imports because we had to import this.
Absolutely.
We had Air India who helped us with the shipments, airlifts. It was such a beautiful collaborative effort. We managed within 45 days to land our first shipment. And by June, all the shipments were in, and by July end, everything was available in all the sites which required it. All these hospitals who were doing critical care of COVID. And it was amazing experience, and I can tell you, while working from home, maybe it was much more in terms of the time that we spent, but it was such fulfilling, and I can't tell you enough. It was amazing. I mean, not just for me, but I have seen this across the team. Everybody enjoyed doing it because we were doing for a noble cause.
Absolutely.
It was just extraordinary.
So the one of the media company that had written this article, it also covered a lot about the founding members, the Tata family. So were they also? How were they in this mission? How was? Have you worked with mission? How was?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Have you worked with?
yeah, I I'm fortunate to have worked with my another role model, Mr. Ratan Tata, the great. I fondly remember we we lost his physical presence 1 year ago, but he's with us in spirit.
Absolutely.
And he has done such a huge contribution to trust, uh, something which is cannot be measured in terms of what we is extraordinary. So he was actively involved as chairman of the trust in the entire activity that we did. But it's not only him, even the other senior management leadership. Uh, as I said, the Trent was that time headed by Mr. Noel Tata. He's currently the chairman.
Right.
He was involved, and his other group members. Tata Motors leadership was with us to help us with supply chain. That is one thing I find, and I think that is learning for all of us who would effectively go on to be leaders. In any organization, the whole thing flows from top to down.
Right.
So when the leaders are the exemplars, are the role models of what the institution stands for in terms of its vision and values, only when the leadership exhibits it will it flow down. And I have seen it as a proof whether it is in Satyasai or in Tatas.
Right.
I believe that is the only management theory that will work. It has to flow from leadership down to middle level and then to the junior level. That is the way a great organization is built and works.
It must have been beautiful working with Sir Ratan Tata. He like having a leader who exhibits such passionate drive towards something else, so noble.
Absolutely. I mean, just a week back, I was talking to one of my very close friends in Tata Trust office. She, incidentally, has worked very close with Mr. Ratan Tata, and she was telling me how passionate about work. I mean, having handling so many institutions of group. So what I understand from her is when he would move out of the office, maybe at little later hours in the evening, he will carry a bag of files which he has to read at homes, all folder, all the documents which he has to go through and certify in the night for the next day morning's work. So his work would not get over at 7:30 whenever he leaves from the office. Goes back home and he had an office, by the way, set up in his house also, where he will do his work after he goes back. I mean, that's sort of a passionate leadership. And I've seen that how it has come down to different levels and how different levels still work. And that inspires all of us. I mean, my team also says that when they look at the seniors, they get inspired with that. And I will love to, I was talking in our session before we came here. If possible, we should try to see some internships happening where students can get exposure to how these things work.
Yes.
It will help you to learn these things which will help you in your later part of life.
Absolutely. The reason why we all truly love Tata is because the core values of the whole organization so much resonates with what truly sound happiness is, because it's so noble. It's so in every sort of organization they have.
So, you know what are the 5 values that the trust uh, works? The first one, which is an absolute no-brainer, which is integrity, which the trust have stood by and I think exemplified over these 100 years of its existence. So integrity is the first value. Second one is responsibility. What is our responsibility to the community that we live in? Then we have the excellence. How do we excel? Because we can't be just compassionate. We have to excel in whatever sphere we have. We have concern for the environment. And the last one is about how to be accountable to our own members. I mean, not only the people who work, with us, but all the stakeholders, whether it's suppliers, our grantees, everybody. So it's an integrated system where the founding philosophy is that we learn from community and we must contribute back to community. That is the principle on which not only the trust but even the companies who work. And let me add to what I said earlier. While Tata Trust channelizes the dividends which it gets and then gives it into philanthropy, apart from that, every bigger Tata institution has its own fund, own trust, who does their a separate level of philanthropy, whether it's TCS, Tata Motors,
Right.
every group institution, which is apart from what they contribute to Tata Trust.
Yes.
So giving is part of life at Trust.
Absolutely. So, all the time that you have spent serving this noble cause, what were some drawbacks and some obstacles that you have faced? Because there must be some, especially in a sector like this, there must be some drawbacks and some obstacles. So,
Good question, Ian. And I will not call it drawbacks. As I was chatting with,
some setbacks.
yeah, or I rather call it challenge.
Yeah.
It's not just in working life, I would say. Challenges would come in every aspect of life, and I believe that is the spice of life.
Absolutely.
I mean, just imagine if you like, say, what is the sweet dish you like? What is your most favorite thing?
Sweet dish.
Or say
Jalebi.
jalebi. Okay. Ian gets 1 kilo of jalebi today. If I tell you you must eat it for your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, maybe breakfast first bite you will enjoy, but may not be as much again in your lunchtime and dinner, right? Every day you can't having it. So you would like to have some, thoda sa, maybe sometime a pizza or a burger or maybe a mirchi bhaji, you like spice, or a misal pav.
Yes.
So life is like that. Life will have a meaning when you have multiple spices, multiple flavors. And that's why I don't call it a challenge. I mean, I don't call it a drawback. I call it a challenge, because every challenging situation I have found and I have learned has an enormous opportunity to learn, which will not come if life is smooth.
Absolutely.
And this is not a philosophy. I'm telling you from my own experience and learning. I have learned the max when I'm put to challenges. And that's the way life. And if you ask me the philosophy of life, I think life is a what can I say? Is a field where you play. And just imagine if you're playing, say cricket is a passionate. I think everybody likes, right? Will you like to play in matches where you keep winning every time? Maybe not. Maybe first few, yes. But you like a challenging opponent to come and you really enjoy that last ball uncertainty whether I will lose or win or whatever it is, right? And that is the fun.
Absolutely.
So life is like that. It will put you into situations because ultimately it's a big game of learning. And I will again request you, I will keep on, I mean, I don't mind repeating it. Be that student more to learn.
So could you tell us about some challenges that you faced? Because I think with the example, everyone would.
Okay. One typical challenge which will come, be it your student life or as a working life, will be the challenge of what we say a challenge of a boss. You would hear this as a common thing from anybody who works. Maybe in student life you will call it of a challenge with your faculty, probably, right? You may have somebody who is a great teacher and somebody who is a challenging teacher. We also, I mean, even I had here, right? Over 30 years I have worked with multiple senior levels of people, and I can tell you it is all about how do you how do you work with them? And I'll give you an example. I had a senior in one of my roles, who was greatly labeled by many as somebody who, if you go to him for approval, you have only 5 minutes to explain. If you go beyond 5 minutes, he's off to something else and your thing will go on a back burner. And that was quite challenging. I mean, just imagine I was in a very big trust and I have to go with a proposal of many crores, and to go and ask or to explain that in 5 minutes was not easy. But then I thought, let me look at it other way. What if I look it as a challenge and see how do I develop my skill to make my proposal first as a summary in such a way I can present it in 5 minutes. Limit it. I mean, something like a Twitter or let's say a TED talk, right?
Exactly.
TED talk. You have to finish your concept within 18 minutes. How do you do that? So I said, let me take as a challenge within 5 minutes. Can I design my presentation in a way I can finish it in 5 minutes? And if that interests him, he may say, I want to learn more. And then I have a backup slides there to present him. I did that and I can tell you, Ayan, it was amazing experience. The same person who was a challenge for many, including me, was a great person to work with. And we developed a rapport that worked really remarkable. So it works a lot. I mean, I'll tell you another example which I had without naming the institution. I had a senior who wanted quick decisions, which is a great thing to move the things, right? To get the things working in an institution. It was quite challenging for many, and for many who have come from maybe a public sector, it is a really big challenge because public sector moves very slow. A lot of philanthropies move very slow because the design processes are like that. But I have seen somebody in a philanthropy who was so passionate, moving things quick. You will send something to him within half an hour, you will get a response on a critical decision. So many had a challenge of dealing with that. But again, we realize that's a great strength of seeing how do we use a senior topmost leadership person who is passionate about it, how we use that as a leverage for the institute, for that, how to get your things approved so that we can move later on the subsequent things. So we worked out proposal, we devised a mechanism within our team. How do we get back to make our proposals where we use that feedback mechanism to get our faster approvals? So do our proposals designed in such a way, it gives him that information what he wants, get the approvals and move on.
Absolutely.
So I will urge you, look at every challenge as a learning opportunity, and you will enjoy doing it, and you will learn a lot, and you will share it with your juniors as you go on.
Yes, absolutely. Sir Abhi, we don't have a lot of time, but we'll end this with the last question. I think a lot of people here and some who are not here would like to know. Tell us about the role that you work in. Like, how is procurement like? What are 5 things that a manager needs to know if he needs to understand procurement? And it would be really nice if it is with numbers. Like, how does it work?
Okay.
How do you make sure that certain problems that are common in procurement do not happen?
I think, do we have any course in supply chain in part of
Yeah.
MBA? I believe. But it would help if that is. But anyway, I think we'll take that offline. So, supply chain is part of every industry, including philanthropy. So, when I look at a supply chain from my perspective, being heading the function, I look at what is the value that I'm adding to my customer. So for me, in the role, my customers are my departments, my program teams who work on various projects, right? I see how my function can add value to what they deliver. And I'll give you an example. Tata Trust, we run one of the biggest programs currently, which runs is a cancer care program. So we have built about 20 hospitals pan India, cancer care, specifically cancer care hospitals over last about 2018 onwards, about 7 years. And and they are running, so even the operational things have to be managed. So my focus is to see how do I deliver as a procurement function, one, on time what is required. So if I say that the hospital has to be operational within, say, a time frame of 3 years from now, how do I gear up to deliver that so that the hospital is working? That's one. Two, while time is the essence, quality is absolutely a non-compromised thing, right? How do I deliver a good civil structure with appropriate equipment? And when you're talking about a hospital, it's typically will cost roughly, the cancer hospital that I'm talking about, depending on the size, somewhere from about 60 crores to 200 crores. So how do I manage that procurement of infra as well as equipment, that it can not only give quality service at the best possible commercials on time? So what we do is, within the function, we see how do we improve our systems. Like, when I see over last 7 years, we have always tried to see how do we automate our systems to the way extent possible, so we avoid repetitive work, make it more automated so that it will avoid duplication of work, save time. So we are at Trust quite keen to implement IT into our IT solutions into our functioning. So it will make our functioning better.
To increase the return on your investments and a lot of those.
Efficiency,
Yes.
bring in efficiency. I will say even delivery of something with more focused and accuracy.
Absolutely.
So that is one thing we look at. We look at how do we connect to vendors. I mean, I go back to what I said is, for us, vendors are not just, it doesn't end by they delivering us the products. I always look at vendors as somebody, they are part of, they're partners in our effort. So if Tata Trust is building a cancer care program and is building a hospital, the 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 company which is constructing that hospital is as much part of Trust who is funding that. So we always look at vendors from that perspective. I have seen it a great way helping, because that is, in my view, the best way a supply chain can work, where we work with vendors as partners, and those synergies will not only allow you to be best in delivering your procurement function, it gives that satisfaction even to the company, because they become part of a philanthropic work you are doing, right? So they become stakeholders, I would say. They're not just one component of your, they get embedded into your system. Absolutely. That is one thing I have always cherished to develop in the procurement function. To specifically what you asked about quantum, as I said, my procurement team works on something to the nature of about 200 to 300 crores in a year, roughly, minimum, sometimes even more. We generate about 300, 400 contracts in a year.
Absolutely. It is a huge.
And all managed by a team of 5 of us.
Huge scale of things.
But it's amazing.
Yes.
And gives a lot of joy. I mean, if I can quote what Mr. Tata, my great inspiration, Mr. Ratan Tata, used to say, at the end of the day, when I lie down on my bed and put my head on the pillow, I am happy that I have delivered my best without any compromise on integrity. It so resonates well with all of us there. I mean, when we, at the night, when we lie down on the bed, I have nothing to sort of to say that no, that is incomplete. I mean, I am happy that I have delivered what is expected from me. That is something which is very fulfilling.
Absolutely. That is something that will take a while for almost all of us to learn to appreciate. But it's something that we are looking forward to.
Maybe I can completely resonate, because you are very young, but please keep it in mind. At certain, just listen. Maybe you can capture what I've said. It may not make sense to you now, but maybe after a few years, 10 years, when you look back, you will resonate with a lot of things that what I said.
Absolutely.
I mean, as I said with you yesterday, at one point, if somebody says that the life what you've done, are you happy? 100%, not even 99. I can say 100%. If today Lord Yama comes to me and says that, fine, your term is over. Now this is the time to close and move on. I can say I have absolutely no regrets, no unfinished things. I'll be happy to walk out.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Because I have enjoyed everything what I have done in my life. Just keep that attitude of enjoying what you're doing. You will excel in whatever you do. That is one thing I can leave you with.
We've come to a beautiful end.
Thank you. I'm part of your community. So I must also thank you for connecting me back with my alma mater. I'm so excited. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I will love to be in touch
Absolutely.
with
sir.
this esteemed institution which I enjoyed. I call it a sacred space, and I
Yeah.
use that term
Yeah, absolutely.
with intention because space is something which I think all of us enjoy.
Yes. Sir.